First of all, I wanted to, well, hello. I wanted to thank the organizers for the organization of the meeting. I'm very happy. I wanted just to drop a few notes on the interests, also not only on the topic, but also on the mix of profiles here and the discussions that take place between, on one side, the donors, on one side, the practitioners, on one side, the institutions, and it's very fruitful, I think, from this point of view, also to bring out ideas and make things happen on the ground with better knowledge of what is available. So this presentation is about to introduce you with basically a tool that we've developed in-house within Hydea through projects. I mean, we didn't mean the tool itself is not the objective. The tool was designed to achieve other objectives in the projects that we used it for. And it's basically started, so I'm going to introduce briefly Hydea so you understand the context and how we work, and we'll introduce the tool mostly through the example of a project we did with the British Council in Palestine in the place called As-Samoua next to Hebron. And I will conclude with a few questions and future perspectives issues that would connect with what we have discussed in the last 2 days. Hydea, yes, it's a consulting firm basically based in Firenze. I work from Brussels, the Brussels office, and it's about 70 people working on architecture, planning, and culture and cultural heritage issues. I work with this cultural heritage department, and we mostly work for international donors and bids for the World Bank, for the EU, for private actors as well, and on all these issues internationally, worldwide. On my department, which is culture and cultural heritage, we stand with a team of about 10 to 15 people, and I mean hundreds of experts associated with us, depending on the projects where of the expertise is where we're needed. And as you can see, we work with inventories, conservation, restoration, management, exhibition, museums, cultural policies, and institutions, and we worked with the different at different levels. So now, straight to the point about the tool, which is, we named it Hydea Collector Kit, but it's just an inside name. I mean, and we haven't labeled it formally. We haven't put a patent to it. But it's mostly, as I mentioned, developed for the needs of the projects. And it's basically made to, the keywords here are user-friendly tool, and it's a methodology that is meant to collect data in the most efficient and most easygoing way for different types of audiences and for as much as possible information that you can tackle. And it's as well working on the processing of the information at the time of the collection and after the collection, on the use, the storage, the access to the information, and the management of the information. As you see here, it's supposed to speed up the process and facilitate the survey on the field and recording, but also to improve the quality and quantity of information, because through the digitized world, we can improve the quality of the pictures, we can improve the quantity of the pictures, and you don't have to worry with these tools about where you put the pictures, naming them, storing them. It's all automated, and it's basically, this is the key element here. It's all the information that you take on the ground. You don't have to worry about processing it later. It's automatically processed through the tool, and you end up, the end result is usable and exploitable to the most possibilities. I mean, also within databases, within storage issues, and so on. Optimizing the management obviously has to do with the GIS based. When we're talking about inventories, it's always nice to have it related to a map and location, and all the data is actually cross-referenced through the GPS coordinates, and that's why the tool was designed with a geographer and computer guy who actually built it on OpenStreetMap resources And well, let me try to get my way there. Did you? No, I didn't press. Okay. I think you press. Where? Let me check. Sorry about that. Here? Yes. Okay. I didn't touch it. Okay. So the process basically starts from the map, and wherever your position, we used it with tablets because basically you can use mobile phone. It's adaptable to mobile phones for convenience purposes, because we had to provide the tools to the people in the first experience, which was in Congo. We used tablets because they are wider screens, easier to manipulate and to move around. And for the first team of people that we trained on the tool, they were not used to computers. They had never seen a computer. They had never used any digitized device. And it was easier for them to manipulate tablets than mobile phones, even though they had, for a few of them, all kinds of mobile phones. Anyway, it starts with a heritage mapping, and then there is the description. You end up with a basic documentation. You can extend the documentation at different stages through the other databases. That means you can bring in additional information through existing archives, through history of the places, through pathologies identification that are specific to different issues, cost control, companies involved, reporting. Everything can be attached to the files from after the ground survey. And you can then follow up the work with the monitoring that is automatically linked with the original stage, because it's, as I mentioned, it's coded with the dates, geo-references, and GPS, and so you basically access all the information is stored in a very easy way to access. So you can, if you go back to the site and you do and you make some corrections to the file, you have it recorded as a new entry. You have the date when it's changed and so on. It appears on the GIS when you have it coded for the transferred to it. So it's all about the basically the whole idea is to ease the management of the information on the ground after the survey is done. The survey is fast, but it's also, we did it in a way that we use, as I mentioned, OpenStreetMap, where you can have polygons and not only points, and we actually, there is the interface that allows for you to draw the polygons yourself on the map through the tool. That means that you can actually enter data on the maps. And as you know, OpenStreetMap is an interactive and a community map. It's open source. It's really growing, and it's a very solid tool for geographic reference in places where access is limited, or in places with political issues, or, I mean, in difficult places. OpenStreetMap is very often more documented than Google Map, for example. And it also has this advantage of having information as it's actual maps. So you can manipulate the maps. You can actually identify the surface area of a road, of a street, the distance on the map between 2 points. You can actually give attributes to the polygons and so on. And this is all available as a data source. And you can do all of this through the program that we designed because we have an interaction, a direct interaction with these OpenStreetMaps on the tablets. So now I'm trying to speed up because I realize I'm taking too much time there. On the genesis of the project, it was for the World Bank. We had to do an inventory of the heritage, basically the sense of municipal assets in 6 cities of Congo, some of them very remote, some of them in Kivu, and in places which were difficult to work on and with. And we had to design a tool that was easy to use for the people who had no clue about computers, no clue about geography, And as I mentioned to some, an anecdote was funny to realize that the planning department head in Bukavu, for example, didn't know what the map was on the wall of the mayor, and he's at the head of the planning department, and he thought it was a painting, and it was actually the map of the city. And when we explained how the map works and what is a map actually to him, he said that there is no way that this blue stripe on the side was the Congo River, because the Congo River is not blue, it's brown. And this is just to give you an idea about the level of information that we had to provide in a very short amount of time to have them work on the field. And it worked very well, actually. After 5 days of training with 55 people from the different cities, we started collecting the data from the distance. We were based in Brussels, and wiki-based forms arrived and flooded. And in the next days, we had 600 files coming, completed, and we could interact with the people in the different cities from Brussels on the files that they had completed, make corrections from the distance and so on. So it was really flow and worked very well. From this experience, we moved and adapted it to different contexts, and I'm going to introduce the one with the British Council in Palestine, and this was also a test for us to adapt it to more detailed information files, and this was about a pre-diagnosis on the different ahwash, which are big family houses with quite complex structures in terms of spaces, and there we had to work with more time and supposedly more skilled people and to train the staff of the municipality. But the files actually had 6 levels of information. So we went from there, you still have the same process, but we had 6 levels of information in the file. So you basically start with the general information of the building and you go all the way to the details of the mortar's composition, for example, or things like that. And this allowed for files of 40, 50 pages long to be issued for some of the awash. And as you would know, this is very heavy to manipulate on a document which is a normal document, a Word document, so on. And here, through the database, you have a very easy access and direct access to all the information that you look for and to organize it. So the work is you prepare the document and you work with the people in designing the different fields that you want to follow. Then there is the field assessment where you collect the information and you take the pictures on the site with the tablets or the mobile phone. You can take films, you can record people for intangible heritage. You can actually make sketches on the pictures that you take. That means you can take a picture and then immediately put notes on it where there is an issue, a pathology, a problem. You can take dimensions on the pictures. You can, all this can be done on the field. Then you go home or wherever you have the Wi-Fi and you upload your file and you retrieve it in a Google Doc format and transform it later. You edit it, and you can retrieve it in a Word file, or you can make it a PDF directly, or you can use it directly in a wiki format, which is automatized. And the fourth step is about linking the files to the map and on the website. And the final stage is the database management and the way you actually exploit the data. Here it's more about pure data, and you can actually exploit it in GIS. But in the case of Palestine, we didn't have the time. At this stage, we still haven't completed the GIS transfer of the information. So it's because they don't have, actually, this issue was raised I raised the issue on the first day. It was about the map configuration and the compatibility between the maps that were existing, and they had a GIS map that was not compatible with the OpenStreetMap and Google Map and the universal coordinates. So we had to adapt and change their GIS base maps. So I'm going to go through this is going to go very fast. These are some of the stages that I just mentioned. So the preparation of the documents, the level of descriptions, as you see here I have put 4 levels, but there are 6 in the Palestinian case, which was about, from my experience on the field, probably the maximum you can expect, because it becomes very heavy. You need one full day on one building to complete the file. And everything is automated, and everything is, you have many places where you have ready-made lists, and you just have to check the right answer within the list of materials, within the dimensions, and so on. And still, it takes 1 day because it's very extensive. This is the field assessment, and of course, we had the training on the sites with the teams, where people actually do the work, but at the same time, they're being trained, and they get to learn also on the pathologies, on the techniques, on their own awareness raising about their own heritage. And we worked with the departments of civil engineering and architecture within the municipality, and they discovered their own heritage through the process, and they became aware of what they had. So this is very important in the process as well. And so these are examples taken from the field. This is how you take, sorry. I'm hoping it will come back immediately. Sorry. Let me try again. Yes. Then you get the edition of the files, you make the corrections, and this is basically how you would do with any format. And you can, in the process, we automatically prepare the logos and the format of the base file, and you can then adjust it. And you decide what you want to have on the file, what are the informations that you want to have in the printed format, and what are the informations that you want to keep for yourself, separate on the database that is only for the in-house department, which is, for example, the cadastre, or the information about the owners, or the value of the properties, or things like that, that you would want to keep separate from the public file. Then you can everything can be decided and automated from the beginning. And this happened there. I mean, basically, some of the informations are kept by the municipality, and most of the information is on the public file through the website. So these are the files that you get. This is basically what it looks like. This is when you upload, you collect these files on the Google format, and you can go there and edit as you would with any documents, add pictures, change the size, organize the data, clean pages, add some additional comments. That's also when you go back to your archives or go back to your historical documents, and you complete the information that you have taken on the field with what you have in the office. It's a very smooth process. You can go back and forth, and when you decide that the file is finished, you can issue the final PDF or the final Word documents and make it available, and you can always come back to it, and if you decide to change it and put a new version 6 months later, you can always do that. It's very smooth. But it's the most time-consuming moments, because you want it to be looking final. These are final outlooks, and as you see, for Palestinian example, we had some files of 40 pages, so we had to put down a hierarchy on the files. That means the first page is giving you the most important information. Second page is a summary brief with basic interventions that are needed, the emergency measures and things like that, and small maps and then you have detailed information on the different building spaces, different walls, different materials, different techniques, everything is there. So this is basically the training session, an example of this training session, and an example of discussion on one file where we had to adapt the contents with the people. It's part of the training, on-site training. So then you get the stage where when you have your files, you link them to the maps. And this is done through a wiki website, in our case. As I said, we worked through projects with very little means, so we didn't have the big means or lots of money to do this, so we had to actually make it as operational as possible. And that's why we use the wiki format and the website. So this is basically how it looks like. You click on the numbers, you have the file. Here you can see that you can access the pictures and you can access the PDF of the file. And the numbers represent the different houses that were inventoried. And it goes on with the data characteristics. So you have the online database. It's basically all the data is put in an Excel table, huge Excel table, and it's all linkable to the GIS, so you can have colors coded parcels that are showing according to the data that you filled in. And you can actually exploit the data on the statistics. And that's interesting because, for example, in the case of Asamoah, we found out that they were undervaluing their own heritage. They were, when they had to evaluate the value of the houses, they were giving very low grades. And we had to come back, we found out the results through the statistic analysis and came back to them in an additional training session to recalibrate the evaluation of their own heritage, because the best houses were given 2 out of 5, and basically we had to say, no, these are the best houses, these are not palaces, but they are the best, most beautiful houses you have to give them at least 3, 4, and we gave them the grids and the criteria that we used. So it was, and we did the same for the evaluation of the intangible values. So I'm finishing there with the 2 slides. I will not go over too much over the 3D axis, but I will just explain it now. We found it very flexible. It's basically made with bricks and it's adaptable. This is a really survey and a system that can be used for maintenance checks, for monitoring of sites, for the follow-up of works of a company when you build a project and you do the daily meeting with the companies that work on the sites. You can use this kind of tool. It's very smooth for wider inventories, but also for intangible heritage, because as I mentioned, you can work with audio, you can record people, you can, there is a voice recognition system within the tablets and the phones, and you can speak in your language and it writes down very well the text that you speak about. It's also very easy for correcting all the mistakes because it's automated recognition, and also the pre-recorded fields allow for all the spellings to be right and corrected immediately. So you can access the information in the right way through the database. It's very compatible with the 3D models, and we are actually waiting for projects where we can actually develop the compatibility with the 3D models, so that within the 3D models, such as the ones that were presented in the last days and the one presented by Bruno, and that we did also for Palestine, you can actually enter the model, the 3D model, and within the model add nodes or connect the information to the files, and the other way around, going back from the files to the 3D models. If you miss a picture from after the visit on the site, you can go to the 3D models, take the picture, add it to the file. Things like that are accessible and easy to put, but we are waiting for new projects to put them on. And yes, I'm almost done. And as I mentioned, it's optimizing the management. It's quite easygoing. It's very light in terms of size. It's doesn't require huge servers. But again, this is all very flexible. And in terms of perspectives, I mean, yes, as we mentioned in the last day, there are many initiatives. I think, yes, we basically started from the ground with our own operational experience, and we wanted to extend the process as much as possible. And we are very open to any collaborations and perspectives to match and to work on adding on or using other tools. We're not, I mean, as the idea, as I mentioned, we developed this for our own projects, but we are ready to extend the work and develop it more through other project collaborations. It's for free. I mean, we're basically not looking for any income out of it. It's just for the sake of the best possible tools. We are, of course, here also for endangered heritage, and obviously it also works very well for fast and quick processes on endangered heritage. I have these last comments, which are based on the Louvre conference. When I'm talking about shared common practice and tool, we were in 1.5 years ago mentioning the need to put together the organization and put together some common tools that are efficient, easy, manageable, and allowing for long distance interaction with the staff on the ground. And this is one of the fields that, one of the tools that could be, taking part in these discussions. And obviously we need the international organizations to get together and work on this, as it was mentioned in Louvre. With Zaki organized this conference in the Louvre and in Lens, and it was very nice to have everybody there, UNESCO, ICROM, ICOM, but obviously we had to cut short. And anyway, yes, as I mentioned, you can follow up from the long distance, and this is the example again of Bruno's works and the perspectives on the 3D. I'm, yes, leaving it there. This is to thank you. I'm going to thank you now.